Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for most of the Fort Smith area, as well as Van Buren out east through Ozark. This line of storms is moving in, and this is the same stuff that we've been dealing with in Bella Vista and Bentonville and Rogers this evening. Now it moves south, it moves into the Fort Smith area, and yes, damaging winds are still the main threat with any and all of this stuff that's moving through. This is a live look with the RDOT cam. This is in Mountainburg looking south. We're looking into the storm, and man, is it a light show. I can't tell you how much, if you just want to after this line of wind moves through, if that's what concerns you, the backside of this thing, man, just watch that lightning flash for hours. There is a lot in there. All right, so let's take a look at radar and see what's going on here. Got a little couple algorithm-based things that are popping up on here. Let's see here. I'll be able to turn those off right now. These are called skits. They pop up based on inbound, outbound winds, but they're not true for tornadoes. They're damaging wind signatures, even though it's showing the little tornado icon. Pretty common with this stuff. Okay, so let's look at the wind speeds, find out what's going on here. Let's set this from north to south here, isolate the winds, and I'm seeing the strongest winds here from right around Natural Dam out towards Mountainburg, and then that cluster of stronger winds right now that's pushing south. See, it started around Uniontown and Cedarville and then started diving south. So right now that's just to the west of Rena, headed towards Van Buren. I do think that probably gets into the north side of Fort Smith. There's another look at it as it drops south. Look at the outflow boundary lined up here. Man, it's like lined up from west to east. Looks like it's pretty much right on the river. Look at that thing go as it moves south. Now, the outflow is the first gust. That's the one that knocks your trash cans over. The ones behind it are the ones that knock your trees over. They're a little bit farther to the north. You can see that, though. The cameras really show it really nicely here. Man, this is just a light show with this. I've never seen, well, actually, I've seen plenty of them. I just haven't seen them in about 2 or 3 months. A thunderstorm this strong with such prolific lightning going on out there. And again, that's looking south. So you're looking into the storm there from Mountainburg with the heavy thunderstorm still underway. Man. All right, well, why don't we talk some streets? Talk about who is underneath this stuff. Maybe. There it is. All right, so the wide view first shows where those strongest winds are located. And again, it'll focus in on that area we were just talking about out over Rena, out towards Rena Road. There's Old Uniontown Road. Here's Oliver Springs Road. So that's running just northeast of the high school in Van Buren. Also, North Rudy Road here. That's tracking northward. That's going to drop south. So you guys out around Pointer Trail, heads up North 24th, heads up along Alma Highway, Alma Boulevard, North 20th Street, and then getting in towards North Hills Boulevard, Northridge Drive. It's moving in now. Winds potentially gusting up to 60 to 70 miles an hour on the leading edge of the storm. And then back to the west, you can see the storms near Dripping Springs. These are dropping right over Lee Creek. This should move right towards the Welcome Center out there on Interstate 40 here in just a matter of moments here as it drops on in from north to south. Again, that's the gust front, the leading edge of those storms that are moving in. See if we can take you out there west. There's a live look there. I bet we could see the shelf cloud here in just a moment too. Probably hanging really low. And that's the leading edge, that gust front showing you the air pushing out of the storm. Let's see if we get a couple lightning flashes here. We can get a look at it. We're waiting for the storm to be a little backlit. You can see the lowering there on the left. By the way, these are all shelf clouds, so these are not wall clouds. These are shelf clouds. The difference is a wall cloud is warm air going up. It still hangs low. And a shelf cloud is cold air coming out. It also still hangs low. So it's tough to see at nighttime for sure, unless you get those lightning strikes that are out there. Another wide view of the storms is a little more broken here. These are not severe that are underway from Clarksville north. I know they're loud. They're really loud from Clarksville to Hector, but they are not severe, meaning that we don't have that damaging wind risk like what we do moving into the Fort Smith and Van Buren area right now. Looking out towards the east, it looks like we've got the damaging wind coming right in towards Pointer Trail now. There's a live look with the RDOT camera here. Boy, that thing is rocking, isn't it? Goodness gracious. This is right at Van Buren. Let's see here, looking towards the east. So the old truck stop would have been south of here. I'm really dating myself by saying that. The Gen Zers are what? But look at the trees. Man, this is really coming in. So we're getting those gusts right now that are probably running probably close to 40 or 50 miles an hour. The actual rain is coming in now too. So this is what it looks like on radar. You can see it here right in the center of the screen. Let me go back to this source. It makes a little more sense. So we're talking right here is where we are, and we're looking towards the east. So we're basically looking this direction with the camera here, that the RDOT camera looking eastbound as the wind starts to make its way in. This is great because it really gives us an idea too of how strong the winds are, and it gives everybody a heads up in Fort Smith of what's about to hit them here in the next few minutes. That line of storms with that outflow continuing to push east and southeastward. Let me show you some of the streets being affected by it. This is the heavy wind starts right here on I-40, but it gets stronger as you move up towards Old Uniontown Road and Northridge. That's pushing out southward. So we're going to have this wind moving in towards Mount Vista Boulevard. It's going to run from North Fayetteville Road south, down Logtown Hill, and then over towards East Main Street in downtown Van Buren. Watching that there just to see what's going on. I know you guys probably want to get back to the radar here, but it's always intriguing to see the storm in real time to get an idea of what's happening and what's about to hit us, right? So the historic district is about to see this in Van Buren, and then to the north, we've got more storms that are moving in out west. You've got storms moving in over Sallisaw. This one's actually not in a warning right now in Sallisaw, although I'm sure it's still pretty loud, and there's probably still some strong winds within the storm too. But yeah, the wind speeds, they're gusty. But they're not like this stuff. That stuff's right there moving south out towards Chibley, out towards Kibler. Most of Van Buren getting this. There's a new frame there. Where is that? That's out along Maple Street and North 24th, showing some very strong winds here. That's looking right towards Cloverleaf there. Very strong winds coming in towards that region. Doesn't really show up that much on radar, right? I mean, it looks like the leading edge is there, but the velocity data tells us the wind is here. We can see it going. Look at those bands of rain coming across I-40. Really tough to even drive out there. Back on over to the radar here. This is a wide view of the storm. There's the leading edge that's pushing across Fort Smith. That's going to continue tracking south and then moving across the Arkansas River Valley here over the next probably hour or so before it finally starts to chill out and let up a little bit. These storms are going to have a wind damage risk. That's probably the biggest risk with this. There was some hail as it moved through some parts of Benton County earlier, but it hasn't been really the dominant risk with this stuff. It's mostly been damaging winds, and that's what it's been in Benton County. Bella Vista, we had some trees down and some power lines down. There were several thousand that were without power earlier from the storms that moved on through. I was looking from the truck stop to see what it looked like um, on I-40 looking westbound, and just a light show. You can't see much. I think the core of it is just right there, moving into Van Buren and Fort Smith now. Let me update this for you here. There you go. So here's the leading edge here. Looks like the Weather Service has upgraded this to. Let's see what this latest warning says here. They've got the warning going until midnight, so they're doing it a full hour. The Weather Service has upped this to 80-mile-per-hour winds and penny-size hail. So the wind speeds are up to 80 with this thing that's moving in. Very dangerous winds here in the River Valley. Probably strong enough that you'd probably want to go ahead and do your tornado routine with this, just to get away from any trees that may fall around the windows or on your home. The wind is really coming into Fort Smith right now. It's like the warned area here. Let's see if I can pull it back up and see what this wind's doing in Van Buren. That wind speed, look at that stuff, man. It looks like a hurricane. This is that's I Van Buren had Highway 59 and I-40. So looking at it on radar too, some of the strongest winds are hitting now. This is especially true along Pointer Trail and then up towards Legacy Boulevard, East Sandstone, and then farther to the south along Azure Hills Drive, Woodland Creek Circle, Alpine Drive, and then moving out towards Bella Vista Street, out towards Logtown Hill. This is moving from north to south. So this eventually does get into mostly the north side of Fort Smith. This is going to affect more towards Midland Boulevard and then moving out towards North 50th, pretty much right towards exit 5 on 540. Man, that thing is coming down though, isn't it? Good grief. Here's a look at what it looks like here lined up across Arkansas and Oklahoma. The severe part of the storm, the worst part of it is going to be um, in the Van Buren Alma area. Let's see here. Yeah, these little white areas here are the damaging wind pixels. So it's what we just had that moved over the interstate a moment ago that you guys were watching on camera. That is now making its way into historic Van Buren out towards Main Street and North 11th. That area of blue is where I'd be most concerned with seeing some wind damage, including power outages, potentially even looking at um, some roof damage from this, and maybe even some trees down or even power poles down with it. This is another look here towards Cloverleaf exit. My goodness, look at the road. It's heavy sheets of rain coming down. The reason I'm looking at the cameras, guys, I'm looking the distance for purple flashes, and that tells me whether or not there's actually some power outages or power lines going down. So that's why I keep jumping back and forth between the radar and the camera. The radar still shows a very strong wind signature here, um, essentially over Kibler Road, over the ball fields in Kibler, and then south out towards Radio Tower Road, South 39th Street, South 40th. Hey guys, we've had a lot of rain in Fort Smith too. We may end up seeing some flooding out of this, certainly street flooding, but possibly some creeks and streams start to jump up out of this thing too. There's a lot of rain within this. I mean, there's a lot of rain, heavy amounts of rainfall as it's tracking south. Another look at it now. There's the line moving in, and it'll continue to advance south through the evening. Now, remember, the main risk here is going to be um, damaging winds. I don't see a tornado threat on this. We can jump over to analyst and take another close look. Start wide. You can see the little red box here. That's the enhanced area of wind. So that's where the wind speeds for the Weather Service could reach 80 miles an hour as opposed to 70 farther to the north. Goodness, right? I mean, that's a big deal. Um, yeah, same place, guys. I'm still seeing this East Van Buren between Kibler and Van Buren. Let's see. Let's track this wind real quick and see where it's going. We saw it move over 59 just a second ago. Is it weakening? It may have. It was real strong over the cloverleaf about what 3 or 4 frames ago. Looks like it's moving more southeast, doesn't it? So this is more towards Lavaca and Central City. Still getting the wind in Fort Smith, but it's this little sucker right here that's concerning. That's the area of enhanced wind damage that's moving in. That's still over the cloverleaf area, extending east out towards Kibler. That's velocity. Here's wind speeds, or here's reflectivity. You can see this thing just sliding on south. It's actually forming more of a line now. So there's a 50-mile-an-hour gust that was recorded out towards Jasper. You can see the storms behind it weakening as they move into a more stable environment. That one's still cranking though, isn't it? There's a boundary that's draped out here. So we may still see additional storms and hear that thunder through the overnight in Bentonville and Rogers, along with Fayetteville and Springdale. Right now, though, the lightning is just going nuts. This is coming right into Fort Smith now. Again, that damaging wind pocket is more towards Kibler. That's the area of most concern as far as damaging winds go. You could still have damaging winds in Fort Smith and Van Buren. In fact, we probably will, especially on the east side of town. But the worst is going to be out here towards the east. Go back over here and let's look at that wind speed again. Yep, there's a new update there. We're still tracking it near Kibler. That's east, southeast Van Buren, and southwest of Kibler, where that core of damaging winds is located. I'm gonna go back over. Let's see here. Why don't we take this to hail on this? There's a report of not a report, but radar indicated quarter size hail north of Alma. That's pretty much it. So hail doesn't look like it's that big a deal. I don't see anything that looks like rotation. There's a pocket of strong winds though right here. I mean that's north of Rudy's. That's not even with that initial surge. That surge of wind is right here west of Kibler near Van Buren, heading south with a whole missile lightning with it. Here it is again, and looping this for you as it moves through. Again, this is from north to south. You can see those showers and storms crawling south with lots of lightning within it, a lot of thunder. At one point, we had 2 golden retrievers, 2 kids, and our hamster. We have a hamster now in the Lewis house. Its name is Nugget. I'm assuming it's because it looks like a chicken nugget, according to my daughter. But anyway, so be prepared for the pets and the hamsters and the dogs and the kids and all the rest to join you in bed if they're not there already. There is a lot of lightning with this. I mean, it's just an incredible light show. You guys in Mountainburg just experienced it. We're having it move in now to the north side of Fort Smith, out towards Riverfront Drive, and then farther south here. Let's see here. We've got it along North A. The strong winds are moving in towards North Greenwood Avenue, North O, Grand Avenue. Looks like we've got it on North 32nd now. That's moving. Let's see, here's a wide view, and then let's go loop this for you here. May have seen a few power flashes on the camera. Let's see. I'm checking a couple other ones here. Let's move a little farther south. This will look north. Maybe we'll get the shelf on this one. So this is going to be from Grand Avenue. The storms are about to hit. That's looking northbound on 540. So on the right side, you would go towards Mercy. On the left side, you'd go towards Central Mall. We're looking north out towards ASP and the Arkansas River. Storm hasn't quite hit here yet, but it's about to, probably in the next 2 minutes, if it's not there already. You can see, yeah, here it is. Not even 2 minutes. It was like 2 seconds. Here it goes. So this storm now moving in towards 540 and Grand, or sorry, not Grand, Rogers, just south of Grand Avenue and south of Kelly, for that matter, is where you're looking anyway. Take it back over to radar here. We'll leave that camera up. I'll look for any power flashes on that off camera. So here is the line. There's the outflow boundary. That's that snake looking thing. That's the first gust. That's the one that cools you down first before the next one comes through with all the wind and the rain. New severe thunderstorm warning. This one just issued for Paris, Boonville, and Clarksville. So new severe thunderstorm warnings out. This is Logan County now, guys, for a severe thunderstorm warning. You can see it as it moves east. There it is flashing on the screen now. So that's a new severe thunderstorm warning for Johnson County as the storms move southeastward. Again, more broken to the east, so there's not a warning in this area. But these storms are all going to be moving south-southeast. I like the fact that the outflow boundary has moved out ahead of it. I think that nearly eliminates a tornado threat. You never can say never around here, right? But the fact that these are occurring on the flip side of the outflow boundary means that it's already cool at the surface. Tornadoes hate cold air at the surface. So it's likely not going to do anything dynamic or anything thermodynamically that's going to cause a tornado to spin up on the flip side of it. Now, if you have a lot of wind pushing out in one direction, you may get some little eddies that form. So that's what I'd be looking for on radar. The tornado threat I don't think is very high. Don't discount the wind threat, though. The winds up to 70 or 80 miles an hour can cause a lot of problems really, really fast. So these storms that are moving in from Alma to Ozark and Fort Smith are all severe, and they do have that risk of some very strong winds within them. There's the outflow boundary first, and then here are the storms behind it. And those will continue moving through Alma and Mulberry. That light show is probably going to last, guys, for about an hour. I mean, it's a lot of rain within this thing. I'm going to look here, see if we can find west of the 49 interchange there in Alma. It looks like it's getting pounded right now. There's a look at it. That's looking east. Those cars are driving. Well, trying to drive on I-40. I guess the storm's pretty much lined up on it now. Let's see here. Don't see any hail bouncing off the highway on any of this stuff, though. Someone's like, I'm getting off. I'm not dealing with this. This is nuts. That's looking towards the interchange. So if you're driving east from Fort Smith going to a hog game, that's where you get on 49 and then head north. It's hard to see in the dark with all this stuff. But then again, maybe it's not because it looks like there's a strobe light going on. Another radar source here. Let's do another analysis on this thing. Looks like that core of wind is punching right here. Let's see what we've got on. No, I still see the strongest out to the east, actually. We'll know what it's doing at the airport here in a second because the wind's about to hit it. But I still think the core of strongest winds that moved over the east side of Van Buren is now tracking southeast closer towards Lavaca and Central City. There's still very strong winds in Van Buren. There's still very strong winds in Fort Smith and Barling, but it looks east of town like it's quite a bit worse as far as the wind gusts go. Let's go back to the radar source here. This is it too. I'm on wide view here. This is just KSRX, the Fort Smith Doppler I've got loaded, but you can see it's still sensing some, or still picking up some thunderstorms upstream still in southeast Kansas. So it's not over yet. We'll have more storms that even roll through Bella Vista, Bentonville, Fayetteville later on tonight. It'll be festering through the overnight, maybe even early morning hours. Right now, though, some of the heaviest lightning is still ongoing here, right over Alma and Mulberry, as well as Ozark. Some of the strongest in Alma, currently on US 64 East. This is going to be along Walnut Grove Road, Ingalls Lane, Lighthouse Drive, and then Thixton Drive, moving west out towards Oak Lane, Country Lane Circle. I think that's the middle school there in Alma. And then it moves into the river bottoms. Meanwhile, over here, you've got this thing just going nuts over Fort Smith, over Grand Avenue. We should probably check back in on that camera here in a second. I'll zoom out a little and animate this for you so you guys can see how this has been tracking in. It looks like Kelly Highway is getting pounded right now too. There's a live look at it with the RDOT cam located there. Someone pulled over on the side of the road. It's hard to drive at night anyway, and then you throw in near zero visibility with wind going crazy. It's tough to make it anywhere, isn't it? That's looking south. You can see it as it's tracking out over Fort Smith now. This is a North 50th, Albert Pike, North 6th, and then back down through Kincaid, UA Fort Smith. Some of the heaviest wind moving right up and down 540 along South 66th and Free Ferry. It's some folks decided, hey, you know what? We're not going to drive over the bridge. It's like it stopped. That's north. It's the 540 bridge heading into Van Buren. Well, that wind is something else, isn't it? I don't think I'd want to be in a semi with that wind either. On a bridge, anyway. And that's looking over the Arkansas River Bridge towards Van Buren. Still seeing a lot of wind there too. I'll show you here. So looking at it right here in the middle of the screen, dark reds, right in the thick of it, it looks like. And then when you look at the velocity product on here, pretty strong winds still. You still got a stronger signature to the east. Probably shows it better on base. Yeah, strong winds here. Cross lanes, then moving out to the south. Lavaca, you're going to get this stuff too. Loop this for us real quick. Really just that initial part as the storm moves in that's concerning. Once you get behind it, the winds slowly start to simmer down. You still end up with a lot of thunder and lightning and everything, but the hail risk comes down as well as the wind risk once you get past that first initial burst of wind that moves through. Again, from Rogers Avenue north on 540. I mean, just sheets of rain coming down here. Time now is about 11:22 on a Friday night. Look at those rain curtains. Good grief. Problem with Fort Smith, though, is we've had so much rainfall lately that we really, I mean, can't really complain about August rain, but I don't know. Maybe you can when you had 3 inches 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, right? This is going to cause some street flooding for sure. Probably some flooding of some small creeks and streams. If you're in a place that typically floods, be cautious of that if you're out during the overnight. By morning, it should all be down. But if you're out during the overnight, just be aware of that some of the streets could be flooded, and you don't want to drive into any of these places with some of that water that comes up real quick because we've just got a lot of rain with this thing that's moving in. Um, you can see the wide outflow boundary here, large U shape. This is just going to keep trucking south, guys. I bet this thing probably goes all the way to Hot Springs and Pine Bluff and maybe even Camden. Well, it'll weaken a little bit. It's running up against the ridge, but it'll still be going for a little bit before it starts to slow down. Let's check this thing for any spin ups or anything wonky. Again, if you just popped up this stream and you're thinking, what are those little triangles? Well, I haven't turned them off yet, but these things auto generate here. There we go. getting turned off. Whenever there's some wind shear that's really strong, severe weather season and supercells, we'd look for those for tornadoes. When you're in a damaging wind event, though, these things trip nonstop just because you have so many eddies and turbulent motion on the leading edge of the outflow. So these storms stretch from around Salisaw, Gans, Muldrow, right through Roland now. Most of Fort Smith getting hit by it. Whenever you see it dipping down like that, too, it's often an indication that you've got some stronger wind speeds. Maybe some small hail near Mulberry. South Dyer, it's really right on the river bottoms. It's a stretch. Another look at the wind speeds. Still roaring. It's just going away out here. Let's see here. Calibrate that. Another radar source. The outflow boundary is now moving through Paris and Magazine, dropping south. It's going to be moving across most Logan County, South Sebastian County. Strong gusty winds from near Muldrow through Fort Smith, through Lavaca. A lot of wind here. Looks like it's getting into the south part of town now, maybe moving over towards Zero Street and out closer to the airport, it looks like. See if we can find out how it looks over here. The Phoenix exit. How about that? Looks like it's just now moving in. That's looking north. That's looking into it. Trees don't look that impressive there on the left side, do they? Or the right, for that matter. But here it comes. You can see the headlights and all those rain curtains on the street there. So this gust and surge of wind is starting to move south and starting to get closer to the southern part of Fort Smith now. Still, I mean, it's already raining there. It just doesn't look as intense as it did out over Van Buren. It's quite a bit. Wind was something else over there. It's another wide view of the storm, and here it is in motion. There's still a lot, man. There's a lot of lightning with this. We're gonna loop. There we go. Guess it don't freeze up on me yet. Yeah, I don't see anything that's really concerning as far as rotation or tornadoes go with any of this stuff. And there's a lot of wind here though over Barling. Let's see. Same area as before. It's actually hitting the radar now, so should be hitting the Fort Smith Airport, and that'll give us a good wind gust to see what we've got going on there. Let's put this in motion again. Let's follow the winds. Just one sec here. I'm going to check this to see if it is updated yet. It hasn't yet, but it will soon. And when it does, I bet we'll see some very strong winds within it. Let me check one more data set. I'm going to go back to the reflectivity on the image. Got one gust so far at 37 miles an hour. That was 18 minutes ago at the airport. That's the highest so far. But that was almost 20 minutes ago. So that was as the storm was moving in. So I think we're going to go higher than that as this thing moves in. Goodness. All right, another wide view. You can see that complex that's moving in. Again, that's north to south and more southeast, I think. And that's where the winds were doing too out over Van Buren. It moved a little more east southeast than due south. So on either side of this main little bow, it's not as bad. But right in the middle of it, there in Van Buren and Fort Smith, it's pretty robust as it moves through. Let's see. Let's see if I can find some real-time wind speeds for you guys real quick. Not much there. I know it's not variable at 5. That would not be right. I'll zoom in at this one a little more. Try one more source here. Now 37's been the highest. Oh my goodness. Y'all in Fort Smith, y'all was 101 today. What do you think the highest heat index was? Here, let me zoom in on this. Heat index was, oh goodness, at 4 o'clock, it was 114. 114. Oh my goodness. That's a little much. Well, thankfully it'll cool down thanks to this. We should see some falling temperatures. That's always a good thing, right? Hate to break it to you though, it doesn't stick around. What we're actually going to see is more heat tomorrow afternoon, and it's probably going to be worse because we've had so much rainfall now that there's going to be more humidity. So the heat index was high today, is probably going to be just as high tomorrow, which probably isn't really what you want to hear with this, but it's what's going to happen. Temperature wise, though, it does cool down in the wake of this thing. In fact, I'm just looking at it here. It's down to like 68 in Rogers and 69 at XNA. Fayetteville's down to 71. You get in these warnings, though. Oh, Fort Smith did fall. We're down to 74 degrees. That's quite a bit compared to where we were. Let's see here. Zoom back out here. These are area temperatures. Go back to the radar source. Again, that's all tracking towards the south and southeast. Looks like we had a gust right at 60 miles an hour in Fort Smith. That was measured out towards the airport. That was the latest gust. It's about 52 knots. So 59-ish, 60 miles an hour or so, I suppose. Oh, there you go. New gust, 1123. So that would have been just a few minutes ago at 60 miles per hour. So we did have a 60 mile per hour recorded gust at the Fort Smith airport. That's this line that's moving towards Greenwood. So Greenwood heads up. You guys are going to get this thing too. And it does have a history of already producing 60 mile per hour winds. So now we know we've got some ground truth on what's going on, and we do have damaging winds that are out there. With all the rainfall too, the ground is so saturated, these trees can come out pretty easily. They pluck right out of the ground. Just watching the trend here on this. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to look at the Ville trend next, just to kind of get a sense for how this thing is ticking over time. If it's strengthening or weakening or what it's doing. You can often use this to look for hail in the summertime. It's not that great though, just because it measures water, and there's when it's this humid and the heat index is 114, there's a lot of water. I'm going to slow these frames down to why don't we just do the last 7 here? These are complete volume scans, so they're not updating as frequently as the other radar images you were looking at. So what I do notice is a weakening trend as it moves south. See it in Alma? Of course, we are hitting up against the radar too, so you're not sampling some of the stuff that's right over the radar. The Coal Hill storm is not weakening; it's actually strengthening east of Ozark, and it looks like the one in Mulberry is still fairly strong too. That's what it looks like here. Yeah, Coal Hill is really going, isn't it? That sucker's strongest out there along County Road 2051. And then within Coal Hill, it's going to be along Arkansas Street, Alabama Street. Boy, they got kind of lazy on those two, right? Where is Georgia Street or Louisiana? Oh, there's Georgia Street. Is there a Louisiana Street? Man, I'm one for one. No, but there is a Carolina Street in Coal Hill. Next time I'm in Coal Hill, I'm going to drive down y'all's streets. East Railroad Street, which is not a state, is on the south side of town, and it is getting hit too. And then out towards Kalamazoo, who knew? Along the Arkansas River bottoms here, we've got storms that are along, well, it would be along Kalamazoo Road, which runs through the town of Kalamazoo in Coal Hill, just northeast of Paris. Some stronger storms here near Vesta as well. This is 215 out in the river bottoms. Man, remember when it flooded? I remember driving out here and just couldn't believe it. This is Annis Road, Annis Road, and then up 215 up towards Valley Creek Road, and then this gets you up towards 96. Really getting close to the bottoms there. You know those places that always flood, they're going to flood again too. Here's Riverdale, Cross Lanes, here's Lavaca. Barling's still having some heavy showers and storms along Fort Street, H Street, the interchange there at Barling by the transportation department. Running south out towards Greenwood. There's the cone of silence with the radar. We got the storm right overhead, so you can't sample anything. So you guys out on Rye Hill Road and Steep Hill Cutoff will never have a radar source from the radar anyway. We could pick it up if we look at Tulsa's or Springfield's a little bit. All right, so one more loop of this to see how this is trending. Again, moving south. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we did have some wind damage in Fort Smith and Van Buren because of this. See if I can pull up some of y'all's comments here too. See what's going on with you guys. 1 second, I'll pull this up. The history with these storms has been storm damage. Oh, you know why it's weakening? This is cool. So I just saw this on the other radar. Okay, so one of the things we look for with wind damage is you're looking for this line to be a very sharp line. If it's super super sharp, you get a lot of wind. Now, if it's really bowing out, that blue color doesn't work. Let's try yellow. If it bows out like this and it's very defined, you end up with the damaging winds. Even if it's a sharp line, you end up with damaging winds, kind of like the outflow boundary, right? But what you don't end up with damaging winds is once you start getting, now yellow doesn't work. Hang on. You start getting these breaks in between the cells like that, like that, like that, like that, and maybe like that too. So now you're looking still more multicellular, and it's not as organized into a complex. Although by definition, this probably is at least a mesoscale complex, but it doesn't have that push, that bow echo. Now, if the outflow boundary was lined up to the leading edge of this storm, it would. It would be even worse than it is now as far as the wind goes. But since it's not and it's a little detached, those winds are just above the boundary layer, not by much, but just enough to where it tempers some of the wind speeds. I'm saying that as I'm talking about winds that are recorded at 60 miles an hour. So just something to be thankful for here that it's not stronger with this stuff. I think we are getting those power outages, and we'll probably have at least some trees down too in Van Buren, Fort Smith, Ozark, and Clarksville as it leans towards the south. Looks like it's coming in towards Greenwood now. I bet Zach Hall's on it. I haven't talked to Zach since the HRRR blew the afternoon forecast. I got home from work and we were texting about how bad the models were today. See, if you have apps, they all run on models and they're all geolocated. So you can really put a C in front of the apps and call them craps because they really don't work that great because they're really just taking high res data and applying a GPS point to it. None of the apps would have shown you the rain today. The boundary was there, so all the meteorologists on TV were talking about it, but yeah, I can't replace this yet. I mean, not yet anyway. Probably some meteorologists that could, but not all of them. Not the ones that forecast in the south. Little break in there in Paris. But yeah, this choppiness is good to see. The bow is bad to see. This is not bad. This is actually pretty good. I'm going to back this up actually 30 frames now, and you guys can see how this is tracked in and how this actually did break up a little. 30 may not be enough. No, it's not. Why don't we back up 100? We'll go big time with this. That's cool. Look at that outflow boundary from like Hot Springs, and then the outflow boundary from the north, and then another outflow boundary from the north. There it is moving south. That's the storms over Springdale and Fayetteville. Here it comes. See how it's lined up? And then as it moves farther south, you start losing some of those deeper reds and you also start getting some breaks. Now, some of the loss of reds that's in this, though, is because it's so close to the radar. So you got to keep that in mind, too. Whenever you've got a storm that's like literally on top of the radar, like this one is, it's tough getting that signal out. For instance, there's Wells Lake Road. So this is out around the Huckabee Nature Center. Fort Smith Boulevard, Taylor Avenue, Roberts Boulevard. These are by those old Chaffee buildings there. Um, out around Chaffee Crossing, and then getting into Greenwood. These storms are coming in along West Center Street, West Denver Street, Excelsior Road, East Center Street. That's going to come down towards Burnville coming up shortly. Well, I mentioned I'll try to look at comments for y'all here. A lot of you guys are hearing. I can only see them in real time, so um, you guys have got some power. It looks like Alma's out, and Alma's power is out. According to Christy, that's over there. A lot of wind with it. Facebook won't let me look at older posts, so I'll just watch it here and there. So, go back to a wider view here. These are moving really quick. I saw that comment from Timothy just pop up there. There's a new one, it looks like, that just got issued. Yep. A new severe thunderstorm warning. This one includes Scott County, and southern Sebastian also looks like it's Logan County as well, at least the southern part of Logan County now under a severe thunderstorm warning. Central Logan, Paris Magazine. Not a surprise. This is all a wind damage threat with all this that's moving through. But look at the core of lightning. There's actually a core of lightning here near Muldrow and Roland. That's just wild. I mean, this is just nonstop towards Shady Grove and Cottonwood, and then back down through the Braden Bottoms. Greenwood, we've got it on top of us right now. That runs to the north. New wind report came in. So check us out. So at 11:23, we had a 60-mile-an-hour gust. At 11:28, we had a 52-mile-an-hour gust. So this wind, I mean, it was blowing. It was blowing for a while. These are 5-minute updates. So let's see, 5 minutes. It didn't record 5 minutes prior. The update prior was 11:08. So um, skipped one there, but within 5 minutes time, it was nonstop from 11:08 to 11:28, a full 20 minutes. The wind was between 37 and 60 miles an hour at the Fort Smith Airport. So I mean, there's a lot of wind for a long time. It's not like it just comes and goes. It's going to stick around here probably 15, 20 minutes once the wind hits, and then finally start to let up. And there will be some pockets of heavier wind that are inside of this. So it is starting to end. You guys in Alma, if you want to go to bed and watch some lightning through the window, go for it. This is probably going to be the worst of it. There will be more storms that are to the north that move in, but here's the deal. The atmosphere's worked over. This thing is tapping into so much energy that everything else is going to have a really tough time just ramping up and roaring here. Um, but out towards Lavaca and Barling, Highway 59, it's really coming in along H Street in Barling, North 9th Street. Wonder if my buddy Daryl's texting me still. I don't know. I've got 39 texts. That's what happens with severe weather. Um, Here's 22 and 253. This is out in Barling. That's along Strozier Lane. Um, I'm also still seeing that second cell that's out there moving towards Fort Smith from Roland. This is a 14 frame loop. That's too much. Let's take us down to 7 and see what this looks like. There we go. So that's Roland on 64 out towards the Costner bottoms there, and Moffett Stockyards and West Fort Smith. Pretty heavy cell there, right on Garrison Avenue too. That's along North Third, Grand Avenue, Northeast Street, Kincaid, still getting it. This is old news though, I guess for you guys, because it's been storming here for like the last 30 minutes. It's still going, still kind of new in Greenwood, right? Barling, we've been dealing with it for a while, and then it's about to move into Midland and Huntington, as well as Boonville and Magazine, as it moves in from north to south. Ratcliffe, Carbon City, the Etna area, heavy showers and storms all moving through here. Um, let's look at two different things. Let's go back to, why don't we check uh, analyst, and while I pull analyst up, I'm gonna pull up Facebook too and see some of your comments. There's their Fort Smith report. Just looking at a big loop here. Interesting. Look at this. You know what I think we have developing? This is kind of cool. Can you guys see this spin here start? So don't get too panicky. It's not that kind of spin. This is a big spin. Um, Not a micro scale, but a true mesoscale. See it? See it right here? Isn't weather fun? So this thing's going right around here. What we have here is likely a mesoscale convective vortex forming, or an MCV. These end up becoming the heart of these storm complexes. They actually get a little bit nastier once these things organize. So um, it's running up against a ridge. I'm not sure it's going to. We'll see. We'll see what it does here. Um, when these things start running up against things like this, they tend to do a lot of wonky stuff, but they typically don't tend to stay together either. Um, but I was just reading some of those bulletins on there. So this other wind report, I'm curious, was Franklin. You've got limbs 6-inch diameter down. That one reported in Franklin County, 5 north of Branch. That was the emergency manager. In Ozark, we've got trees down. That one also reported from the emergency manager in Ozark. So you've got 2 areas of wind damage, and I think it's safe to say from Paris to Boonville to Washburn and Greenwood, we're going to have reports of wind damage with this stuff. Going back over to storm relative here, let's see what we got. There's still a pocket. Remember the MCV is. Hang on, let me go to the end and back up here. Right there. We're gonna have a little bit of an increase in winds too, guys. In Fort Smith again on the north side of town when that starts to move through. That thing's just getting developed and organizing, though. What it'll do eventually is it'll probably kick up these storms in the central part of the state, out towards Mena and Mount Ida a little bit later on. It'll probably ramp up in intensity some more. I'm going to look at the VIL trend. I talked about this earlier. VIL is vertically integrated liquid. It's a mouthful to say. Some people use it to look at hail. I do in the spring. I don't in the summer because everything's waterlogged and you don't get real readings. It's all fake. So backing up here, I'm probably going to crash the computer. Some of the colors fading here, though, are not because the storm's weakening. It's actually just getting close to the radar beam. We still may be getting some attenuation there. Let's see. Where's the Doppler? Yeah, I don't know if I trust the Doppler right now. Well, the Doppler's fine, but the products like the vertically integrated liquid, they're comprised of what's called volumetric scans. So it's like the radar goes from bottom to top and cuts it into different slices, and it says, "Here you go. Here's a package of the atmosphere." And then the algorithms take over and they say, "Okay, here's what the storm's doing. There's a lot of water here through this content or through this parcel, and we get an idea of what the storm's doing." Now, when the radar is right on top of the thing, it's a lot more challenging to get something like that going. I don't think I can show you guys the 3D scans. I don't think I have the computer set up for it. I can try. I'll probably break it. Yeah, it doesn't pop up on here. I can see it. You guys can't though. Let me see if I can pull it up on the screen. Mm, Let's see what we can do here. I bet I can take the try this real quick. I had the severe risk one loaded, so I think I'm just going to change a source on this, and I'll see if I can show you guys what I'm looking at here. Maybe. There it is. All right. So this is the storm in 3D. So this is what I was looking at off camera a second ago. I cut a box out of the sky here. Check that out. Do you guys see that like leading edge? Some of those low clouds. Isn't that cool? So as the radar beam goes up, it climbs, right? So at the very middle, there's a hole. There's nothing. It's a donut. It's a cone of silence, is what it's called. They used the term wrong in the movie Twister. The first one, the second one, they did pretty good with it. But it has nothing to do with tornadoes. It has to do with the Doppler radar, and it has nothing to do with tornadoes being calm. It has to do with the radar not seeing Jack Diddley right in the middle of it. So that's what it looks like out in 3D with the storm. We'll try to come back to that later. If I see anything off camera, it looks kind of fun. There's the beam coming through. You can see the outflow boundary advancing. That's going to be, boy, it's coming into Boonville now, isn't it? Magazine. Right down 23, Highway 10, 109 in Boonville. You guys along East 8th Street and East Main Street are getting hit. Same with North Nixon Avenue, North Broadway, 116 running east and west, just north of Boonville, out towards Cawthron. Pretty strong out there in Cawthron, too. That's going to be mostly to the north of Brewer Road in Cawthron. That's tracking more towards Magazine. And the wind speeds with this are still attenuated. Let me see if I can do something different here. The storm over the radar in Fort Smith is pretty strong, so I'm having a tough time actually seeing some of these other ones. I'm going to change radar sources here and take a look at Little Rock. Now, remember, you saw how the radar beam climbed with height. So the farther you get away from the radar, the crappier it is. So you're looking higher in the sky. You're not sampling lower in the sky, so you can't tell what's going on with the storm. When we get farther away, you don't really have that. You don't have the ground truth at all because you're not scanning the low levels. When you're out towards Fort Smith and you're using a radar from Little Rock, it's not as you're higher up in the atmosphere. I can use analysts to tell you how far we are. Maybe we'll do that next. But anyway, I'm using this now just to see what the winds are like here in the center of the storm. This is Little Rock's radar. It is farther away from Fort Smith. It's garbage data. It's hard to tell anyway. You can't really use it. It's too bad. Back to Fort Smith, maybe I can try to pull up Inola. You ever driven to Tulsa and noticed the Doppler near Inola? As you move towards the Tulsa area, coming down 412 or the Turnpike or whatever you're on. That wasn't the point I was going to make. The point I was going to make is you never see anybody wearing a Hard Rock Cafe Inola shirt. Have you noticed that? Back in the 90s, those were a big deal. But no, do they have those? Because there is one. They turned the casino into one over there. Um, anyway, I've just always wondered that. Do they make Hard Rock Cafe Inola shirts? Oh, goodness. Going back to conversations I have with my wife on road trips. She's awesome. All right, so here's Pecola. We've still got it coming down. Oh, I bet Nicole's watching this. Little sister's up somewhere around here. Or she's not. She's probably trying to take care of her teenage boys. I'm not looking forward to those days. My son just turned 13. So I've been talking a while. I'm getting a little sleepy. I've been up since 4. All right, so South Pecola Boulevard on 112. Bonanza out through Hackett. Here's Highway 45 running south. Where are we here? Show me some streets, Lewis. There's Wofford Lake Road, South 5th Avenue, Maple Street, Pine Street, Oak Street. They got creative again. That's along Elm Street. And then Sherwood Avenue, Woodson, and McConnell. That's in Bonanza. And that's all moving south. I think the stronger winds, though, are probably more towards Boonville right now, as well as Carolyn, south of Glendale, east of Magazine. Mount Magazine, boy, what a weekend to go camping, huh? That's probably the place to be with all this heat. Heat has been terrible. It just felt gross today. There's another look at it here. See the MCV developing, get a little low spin in there. Isn't that neat? Yeah, I don't see anything that looks like any kind of tornado with any of this. If that's what you're worried about. Don't be worried about it. This is not that. It's not going to tornado with this stuff. I wonder about hail though. Should we look at hail real quick? Let's take a look. Maybe 1 inch. They got 1.5 inches. The radar's indicating out towards Driggs. You want to see what Boonville looks like in 3D? Let's see. I'll get the scan going, and then let's go back. Actually, you know what? I'm going to swing it back and forth. I think you guys will like that better, unless I have to reload the frame. Let's see. Does this work? It doesn't work. That's a bummer. Let's see here. Yeah, but it looks cool. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can pull that back up for you guys. Trying to show you guys what this looks like as a cross section. Another thing I look at off camera that just looks really weird if you look at it on camera, right? So you can scan through the storm here, and what I can do is see what winds are doing aloft. You can sometimes tell where air is sinking in the storm. You can tell where hail is building up in the storm, and we can move it north south out over Boonville, or we can swing it north east west too. So looking at the storm, a cross section of the storm looks like these storm tops are up to about 30,000 feet, maybe 40,000 in some spots. Not particularly high considering how high the atmosphere is during the summertime, thermal expansion, so the atmosphere actually gets a little taller. And then, but you can see as we scan through Paris, see this, all that stuff that's lofted there, that's west of Paris. So let's see if we can find that thing on radar here. Let's see. I bet we were looking right there in Driggs. We can turn on maximum estimated hail size and see it though. Boom, there it was. We're actually looking at it from Driggs to Magazine. So all that hail that was lofted up here is falling out of the sky a little bit more towards the east, which makes sense because the hail goes up and then it eventually gets lofted and then it comes back down to the ground. So there is probably some 1 inch hail that's in there. Don't see any of the other strong wind reports that have come in. That's the strongest one too, out there around Driggs. That thing is, let's see here. Try to do a volumetric scan on that. You can look at this a little more. So it's a cross, man, really? It's a cross section of the storm here. Um, this is the one over Boonville. You can see the clouds as they move in. Those are the central updrafts too. You got one more vigorous updraft here, and oftentimes you can tell as these things are forming. That looks like a new updraft, which makes sense because it's on the leading edge of the line, and those new updrafts will continuously form along the leading edge. Storm tops on all this. Some of those go up to 40,000 feet. Those dark red colors really aren't making it up there though, so you're really not looking at much hail production at all at the top of the storm. I got some going on here. But in the spring months, man, you'd see that red color going all the way up. You'd actually see where the tornado was in it. You can isolate it a little more too. What photo table I was using last or what I was looking at. There's no telling, honestly. Let's go back to radar. Let's see here. 1 second. Let me get this pulled up for you guys. Too many windows open here. There we go. All right. So that's the line of storms that's moving from north to south. Makes sense that those stronger winds would be here near Boonville. See how it's kind of pushing out? A little bit more bowiness to it right there. Kind of a trailing back edge. all of them are eventually going to do what this stuff's doing. See how it just kind of looks like someone's got it like a fire and just waving it through the wind or something? It'll flare up on the leading edge and then it just kind of falls off. And you're actually seeing old updrafts behind the line, which is kind of cool if you think about it, because you've got new updrafts and they get blown and pushed backwards. And that's why everything kind of looks like it's getting blown back, because it literally is. It's old updrafts that are getting pushed back. Let's see. I just saw another update on the Fort Smith ASOS, the automated surface observation. So you know that gust at 11:23, it gusted at 11:42 at 49 miles an hour, and then was still gusting at 11:42 at 49 miles an hour. At 11:49, it gusted to 32 miles an hour. So I mean, you're talking 30 or 40 mile per hour winds for 45 minutes. That's a long time. That's a lot of wind. That's out at the airport where that thing moved through. And that's what's in store for us, unfortunately, here too, in Magazine and Boonville and Blue Mountain, where it's coming in. That's along Pleasant Hill. Where's this thing at? Let's see here. This is going to be Diamond Road, Martin Loop. Let's see, Wide View. And yes, but wait, there's more. There is more. Southeast Kansas, Southwest Missouri, more moving into Northwest Arkansas. These will not be severe, thankfully. The problem is that front doesn't move through. If we could just bring that front in, it wouldn't be so terrible. But the problem is it doesn't until Sunday night. Sunday night, we could have that front move through, and that may give us some 80s for next week. So there's something to look forward to as that thing moves. That front finally pushes through and gets rid of some of this heat and humidity that's out there. Go back and look at the velocity real quick, looking for some wind speeds. Blue Mountain Lake, been there several times. Waveland, Grove Creek, Havana, Sugar Grove, Sugar Grove, Magazine, Mixon. Another wide view here. Look at that outflow boundary. It's so pronounced, isn't it? It's going to be fun to watch this as it runs up against the Washitas. It could actually generate some storms through. You get that cool air that's sinking, right? So it goes up against the mountain and lifts it. That was really close to the camera. I'm sorry about that. So it lifts it, and you end up lifting the updraft and bringing it to the level of free convection, and then you end up with storms if you get that air pushing up the mountain. It's called orographic lift. It's fascinating to see. We don't have it happen too often around here. Mostly because our mountains aren't that high. But you notice it a lot in the wintertime because the cold air gets into the Ozarks and just gets stuck there and never makes it into the river valley. So the terrain does affect how these storms will develop and evolve. That outflow boundary is moving to the south. The stuff to the west appears to be weakening near Fort Smith. Let's look at the trend on this again, because the trend is your friend, right? Yeah, some of that stuff on the west side is weakening. Strongest one out there right now is Magazine. Magazine and Blue Mountain. That's where the strongest storm is. That's where the heaviest rain is. It's probably where we got some hail, and we probably have some damaging winds too. So here's Highway 10. There's Blue Mountain. Um, let's see here. There's Klondike Street, Logan Street, Elm Street. Every town has an Elm Street. Um, let's see, Cobb Street and Ritchie Road. That's in Blue Mountain. So very strong winds are pushing in there out towards Waveland. Close out some of these real quick and then see if I can clean the radar up. There we go. I'll go back to analyst. It's a new wind report from Charleston. Yeah. Large trees down, power lines down in Franklin County near Charleston. I'm telling you, that wind is something else. The worst is over though. So for you guys in Clarksville, Dover, maybe even Russellville, back down through Alma, Mulberry, Fort Smith, if you're like, hey, I'm done. It's like midnight on Friday night. What's this guy doing? Well, I'm gonna watch it, but I'm gonna lay down here in a little bit as this thing moves through. We got more weather moving in tomorrow too, maybe in the afternoon with some spotty showers. It's not going to be like this though. It's not going to be as widespread for sure. Blue Mountain though, and Waveland, Havana, you guys are going to get the brunt of this. Boonville expected the wind to go for about another 30 or 45 minutes, and those storms in Greenwood too are going to keep going out towards Washburn and Huntington, as well as Mansfield. Again, that's pushing from north to south. There it is. There's the line. A little weaker there on the north side. You can see how that's starting to take shape with the complex forming. I'll pull it back up in the morning when I do one of these weather things, and Let's see what this thing's doing, see if it's still going. A lot of times it leaves like the skeleton of the MCV alone to that convective vortex center. It'll just leave it, and then you'll see it on satellite, and then you get daytime heating, and the storms blow up all around it. Models miss it every single time because they don't understand how these microscale and mesoscale things work, or if they do, they can't resolve it with enough steps anyway. So that's the line that's moving through. Been tracking it here. It seems like from about 5:45 or so to midnight. It's been interesting to watch though with some of these winds. It'll be interesting to see in the morning too. I want to go in the backyard and see if anything got blown over. I know I've got one trash can that blew over in the front yard, which is kind of a bummer because this morning was trash day and I was not a good neighborhood citizen and did not take my trash cans up. So I may get a letter from the HOA. But then again, I may not because I'm on the board. But I probably will because he sent me letters before saying my grass was too long and my weeds were too long on the side of the house and my fence need to be painted. Oh damn. All right, so those are all moving south. A little bit of hail there, strong gusty winds. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up for now as we approach midnight here. But the bottom line with all this stuff is we've got showers and storms. They're gonna keep going here for us. It doesn't look like it's gonna let up for at least another 45 minutes in Boonville, Russellville. It's still gonna keep going, and even that stuff that's in Missouri and Kansas is gonna float south. So this is the main push. This is the brunt of the storm. Behind it, we've got some spotty stuff. It's not going to be nearly as strong. It'll still be loud. It'll still wake the kids up. They're probably still in your bedroom. But it is going to be weaker as it moves. We go through the overnight. I think some of this may even be festering still around sunrise. So we'll see. Have to see how this plays out during the overnight. Tomorrow, it's more spotty stuff in the morning, or even daytime heating in the afternoon, and then more development Sunday night. So Sunday night, guys, is the next front. We may have some thunderstorms with that. But thankfully, on the flip side of this, highs may only be in the upper 80s to near 90 early next week. Now, it's not going to last because it's still August, but I think we're going to have like 1 or 2 days where it's like, oh, I can breathe. I don't feel like I'm dying of heat and humidity. And that's probably going to be around early next week. And then we're back into it by the latter half of the week and heading into the weekend. Thanks for joining me tonight, tracking the storms across my hometown and everywhere else. I'll keep an eye on it. If anything flares up, I'll jump back on. But I think we're just in for a lot of wind, rain, and a lot of lightning with this stuff. But I think the overall severe weather threat should start to diminish with time. We're already seeing some of those warnings start to get trimmed back. If anything looks nasty, though, I'll jump back on and I'll catch you back next time.